Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Can you all hear me? If you can, let's see with a raising of a hand in the chat column. Very excited to be here today. Today is a rather interesting time. Once again, I would like to welcome all of you to the Rankad webinar. My name is Kingston, Kingston Tego. And today, we would essentially be reviewing e-commerce as a global, domain, especially with focus on how it's changing retail in sub-Saharan Africa. And I would also be looking at the evolving dynamics in the space as well, the opportunities that it offers for various businesses, and at which point in the businesses or retail businesses cycle that business needs to consider carefully adopting certain aspects of e-commerce operationalization in their business. And most importantly, how you as a retail business, as an entrepreneur, can take advantage of the shifts within this industry. And so, as I said earlier, I'm Kingston Tego, I'm VP of Product at Rankad. And I'm super excited to have you join this conversation. Today, I'll be joined by some really interesting panelists. I've worked with all of them on one way or the other. As we go through our conversations, I'm sure you would have questions. So feel free to drop your questions in the chat, and then we would address them as we go along. So I'm going to start off by introducing my guests. I'm going to quickly go around, talk a bit about them, what they do, and then they would also, give me some brief highlights about themselves as well. And then I would also walk you through some quick flow. I'll take you through a quick flow about e-commerce, what it is, what are the various aspects in there, and hopefully you will leave this session having some insights that you can, piggyback on and use in your day-to-day operations. And then we'll come to the main essence of the conversation, where I would engage our speakers, talk about various conversational points here. So today I'm here and I'm joined by John Jima. John Jima is the head of business operations at Rankad. And I'm sure he would talk a bit about himself. I would give quickly an update about Rankad. So Rankad is a graph AI company. What we do is enabling global brands to connect with their relevant audiences. And you'd hear me say what we do because I'm also with Rankad. And Rankad's being in this conversation is because of their conversational commerce platform, which is enabling retail brands to sell more through AI-powered, conversational or automated engagements. And so, John, welcome. Give us a wave. And then we'll come back and then you would speak a little bit about yourself. Then I'm also joined by Luca. Luca Giardino is the general manager for Pickup Ghana. Interesting thing about how I met Luca, it was through a client, a brand of ours. And fantastic guy. I mean, he's born and raised in South Africa. His degree is in transport and logistics. And, he's now in logistics tech, actually, and he believes it's a very exciting space to be in because, the space is evolving, changing at a rapid pace. And he believes that to remain relevant, to remain competitive, you need to adopt new and improved processes. So we're going to hear some of those processes as we go along. And he's also had the opportunity of helping various companies evolve by helping them implement new processes, bringing the companies to new markets. And, his previous roles has really afforded him an opportunity to build a skill set and also launch, digital logistics company in Ghana. So that is how I met him. I met him in Ghana. So Luca, give us a wave and then would continue.
Kingston, can you see my face there?
I'm not sure I'm able to see you. Yes, I can see now. Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you too. And then our last speaker is Kingsley. Kingsley is with Kudigo, fantastic guy. I've known him for a long time. I met Kingsley, when was that? 2013, when we went into the MESS program. He was already in tech at that time. And, he's an entrepreneur. That's how I can describe him. He has a passion for innovation. And, his focus has really been on developing marketing strategies and creating impact-oriented brands. So that is how, through his work, he was able to, bring Kudigo, which basically is focusing on how technology can change retail business in Africa, especially when we focus and we give it an African context. So Kudigo really focuses on innovating around the informal sector in consumer retail in Africa, and they offer tailored made solutions which solves real world problems for informal retailers and industry players. Kingsley, I'm very, very happy to have you here. Can you hear us? Awesome. So guys,
I can hear you loud and clear. It's great to be on this panel. I look forward to the discussion.
Awesome. We're going to do a quick round trip from John to Luca to Kingsley. Tell me something fun you did last week and then this week as well. Something fun, just to break the ice, and then we'll continue. John, I'll start off with you.
Oh, maybe probably something fun I didn't do. I've been leaving this afro for quite a while now. I decided to go and shave it off last week, but I never got a chance to do it. So yeah.
Thank you. Luca, what about yourself?
Okay, so if you guys haven't been aware, South Africa's been going through quite a heavy lockdown period recently. So what I do sometimes to ease the pain, the stress, I jump on my motorbike and I take a long drive down the coast, have a cup of coffee, and I cruise on back. That's my stress release, Kingston.
Interesting. And Kingsley, what about yourself as well?
Oh, I tried some new variety of Arabian coffee, and man, it was so good, man. So that's something new I did.
And that's fantastic. I have mine right here. Anyway, guys, so before we jump into the conversation, I'm going to sort of do this, curtain raiser, so that anyone who's listening, maybe not so up to speed with e-commerce, how the domain is, I'm going to carry them along, and then we're going to jump into our conversation today. And so we're going to start off with an opening slide quickly, and this should be just around a few minutes, and then we'll be out for conversation. All right. So we'll share the slide, and then we'll kickstart this. And basically, we're talking about harnessing the power of e-commerce to boost businesses, and how brands can do that on a daily basis, or how they can leverage that to grow their business. And people would typically want to find out what exactly is e-commerce, especially for those who are newbies. But I mean, e-commerce is not new to us. E-commerce has been there for a long time now. And so what is really important is that today, e-commerce is basically how you sell or buy products online over the internet, right? So that's basically what it is. If my operator would be kind enough to share the screen so that my audience can follow, I would appreciate that. Right. So when we talk about e-commerce, as I said, it's about enabling brands to, sell their products, and then customers on the other side buy that over the internet. And essentially, it's a substitute for brick and mortar stores. So typically, brick and mortar stores would be selling from a corner shop along the road somewhere. But certain brick and mortar stores would actually prefer to have their physical stores running and also have an e-commerce platform to complement that, or to go side and side with that. And so, I mean, the point is that e-commerce is really massive. If you can go to the next slide, we would see that the global e-commerce domain is around $4.2 trillion this year alone. And with the COVID, people would think that lockdown is the main contributing factor leading to rise in e-commerce. But I mean, since we came after lockdown, it keeps increasing in terms of the value and the volumes that are being processed post lockdown. And it's projected to reach around 6.5 trillion in the next 2 years. So in the next 2 years from now, we're going to move from a 4.2 trillion to a $6.5 trillion in e-commerce or global e-commerce domain, the size of it. Now, in terms of its evolution, right? The key thing is that, can we go to the next one? The key thing is that e-commerce is evolving from the first generation as we knew it, where you had to walk, into a superstore, whether it's a Tesco, an Aldi, you have your own car with you, you buy the products, and then you self-serve yourself, and then you basically check out. To the second generation commerce, where now you go online, you buy an item, within 2 or 3 days, it gets delivered to you. And the brands have mega warehouses where they store all of these products. And now it's moved to a third generation, which is called Q-commerce. And Q-commerce is when you order for an item, also online. Of course, there's a small selection available. And then within less than an hour, a biker or someone on motorcycle would bring the item to you. So, I mean, in Q-commerce also, this is really a very fantastic domain. It's evolving, it's becoming more and more. And then the fourth generation, which I believe is quite interesting on top of Q-commerce, is what we call C-commerce. And so I'll be talking about each of these. So Q-commerce, C-commerce, what each of them means, and the opportunities it offers to us all. So when we talk about Q-commerce, if we can go to the next slide, Q-commerce is essentially an evolution of e-commerce, as I said, and it's based on being quick. So when a client or a customer orders for an item, they expect that within less than an hour, it gets delivered to them. And this is where you typically find your Deliver Hero. This is where you find your Uber Eats, your Just Eats operating, right? So it's all about speed and convenience. But the reasons why Q-commerce is important, if we can go to the next slide, the reasons why it's important, it's because of, I mean, people's lifestyle and consumer behavior evolving. Now people expect that when they order for something, they get it immediately. Because of time, speed and convenience has become more important, very, very important to people. And most especially in light of COVID-19, people are not able to go out and grab things by themselves. So Q-commerce sort of bridges that gap, enabling them to get the things they want as quickly as they want it. By 2030, we expect that Q-commerce would grow to up to 528 billion in terms of the projected market size, which is very massive, if you think about it. On our next slide, we talk more to conversational commerce, C-commerce. Now, C-commerce is more around leveraging messaging platforms, messaging channels to engage with customers using AI-enabled chatbots. And so brands will typically use this to engage with their customers, whether on Apple Business Chat, whether on WeChat, whether on Messenger, whether on Telegram, WhatsApp, and they would typically leverage this platform. But the reason why they will do that is because these platforms, I mean, in total have about 2.8 billion people using these apps to engage. So it has a very massive concentration of user base, which you can tap into, and then brands can engage their audiences via that channel. And its potential market size in the next 3 years as well is projected to reach about $142 billion. So it's quite massive. It's quite massive. Now, Q-commerce has several advantages, as we would see in our next slide. For example, you don't need to set up a platform. You can engage with your customers on their existing social channels, where they can basically place orders with a brand. The ordering process is fast. So customers can go through products, make instant purchases. It's all automated because typically you would have AI-enabled conversational engagement behind that. So it's hassle-free. You don't need someone sitting behind that engaging all the time in real time. And it offers a ton of convenience for customers. Just to give you some highlights about the relevance of this space, I'm going to share a few metrics from our own work in conversational commerce. From last year, we saw on average, each of the brands that was using our platform was processing around 1 million Ghana cedis in sales, right? And this is all using AI-enabled conversational engagement to allow customers to order conveniently. So there is no human interruption. It's all automated. It's all AI. And typically they would process just around 25K orders through automated engagements. And they served on average around 18,000 customers per brand. So, I mean, it's relatively new in this space, but we can see that there is some traction in there. For a business to be making $1 million in sales, it could go more, it could go 10x based on the adoption by customers, by brands as well. And so it has a lot of relevance, especially for brands in food, for brands in retail and utility domain. They can engage with customers in this manner. And then I'll go to my last slide, and then I'll check out so that we can speak with our panelists. So Rankad also has a conversational commerce platform. I'm sure John would have a lot of time to talk about that in the course of the engagement. And then these are some of the brands that we serve. So yeah, thank you very much. We'll jump into our conversation and then we'll kickstart. So let me kick off by, asking a couple of questions. Basically, I would like to ask a couple of questions. I'll start off with John, and then it's pretty straightforward. The question is, a retail business making money, at what point in their business's life cycle should they consider adopting, e-commerce channels? Should they consider thinking about going e-commerce? I mean, it's a no-brainer, but at what point should they be thinking about this?
Thank you for the question, Kingston. So, I mean, if you say at which point in their life cycle, I mean, I would say from the very onset. I mean, and it's quite clear because one of the main advantages of going or having a digital presence or an online presence is the fact that in terms of your operational cost or your initial investment, it's a bit low. I mean, you don't need to go and set up a physical store, have it registered, pay somebody to man the store and all those stuff. I mean, if you have an online business, it's easier for you to start, and as and when sales pick up, then it can justify actually having a physical location. But I mean, this is, in as much as this is true, it's not the same for all kind of business. For certain kind of businesses, yes, you do need a physical presence, and in that situation, I would say that you need to set up the online store right at the start so that it augments your physical store as well. Because the point is, your physical store will just give you access to just your locality. So if you stay in Dansoman with, let's say, 1,000 people, that's your market. But if you augment that with an online store with over 1 million users, you have potential for growth. So I think it should be by default from the very beginning, or that if you want to start online first, but in situations where your business requires a physical presence, then in certain app, you actually need to start with both the physical location and the online location.
All right, yeah. Thanks. So the next follow-up there is, I mean, look at the various layers in e-commerce. You can think about inventory management, you can think about payments, you can think about fulfillment and delivery, after purchase support. There are so many layers in e-commerce. So Kingsley, back to you. The question is, which of these should be the first of focus? I mean, John says from the onset, as a business, as a retail brand, you should be looking at that. But I mean, which of these should you typically focus on in your business as a retailer?
Yeah, thanks, Kingston. So sometimes when I have these conversations, I give a somewhat different opinion to everyone else. And it's because of the fact that I always say this, that e-commerce doesn't work for Africa if you don't sort of understand what the foundation is to be able to do e-commerce in Africa. And the evidence is there for us to see. The likes of the Jumias and the OLX and all those other companies. The question is, why is it that they lost so much money or are still losing so much money, and there's so much fraud perception on e-commerce in Africa? And the problem is simple. Africa has always been a retail-heavy economy. You are not going to teach the average African how to do retail. They've been doing it for ages. What we need to focus on is understanding how they've survived so long without tech, the disruption that tech will bring into their business, and figure out how we can plug in the tech we have now in a way that doesn't make them start getting scared or doesn't make the customer sort of apprehensive in adopting their products. And I'll give you a typical example with how we approach what we caption as digital commerce. When we started our business 3 years ago, we didn't plan to go with an online store in at least for the next 5 years. But then COVID happened. And when COVID happened, at that point, we had helped over 6,000 retail businesses digitize their inventory. So instantly, you have inventory from 6,000 stores who, by virtue of COVID, had to shut down their physical stores. At that point, the simple logic was, can you make this offline inventory available online? And the answer was yes. Because now the issue of stock control, you've answered it. You know what the inventory level is, you know who has got it, you know where they are. You've literally done your KYC on that merchant. So it's legit. The second angle now becomes the customer. How do they now get the product? And for a customer today to go online and go and buy, they are afraid somebody will take and might not deliver the item. So how do you build that trust with that customer? So for me, really, I always say that you need to look at it within the context in which you're deploying it. Every merchant is different. Every retailer is different. Those who already have physical stores will want to stay with their physical stores until you convince them that e-commerce is the way to go. As far as they are concerned, you don't really care. Once I get my bread and butter, I'm okay. Whether a Jumia comes, or another comes, really, like in the Makola markets in Accra here, like they don't really care because they're still making their money. But we know disruption is coming. So how do we help them prepare for that disruption? So that's how really I sort of think about it in a very simple sense. I mean, it's that way for us, yeah.
Brilliant. So, I mean, you mentioned something which I was going to get to anyway. How are we going to help them to bridge that gap? I'm sure in the conversation, as we evolve along the conversation, I'll raise that with all of the panelists. But Luca, over to you. You are into fulfillment and delivery. I mean, you're into last mile, and what Pickup basically does is, streamlining the delivery process using intelligent tech-enabled logistics platform. You've been in South Africa, you've been in Nigeria, you've been in Ghana. So having worked with a lot of these merchants and these retailers, where would you say, at which point did you find them coming to you and saying, hey, we need a tech solution? And at which point would you say businesses should be thinking about an e-commerce layer in their operating mix?
So Kingston, we started getting, people started approaching us on the basis of, while they were busy designing their systems, one of the biggest headaches these companies were facing was the delivery aspect. So, it's fine and well to have an ordering system that has a front end that works perfectly. But what are some of the biggest issues the guys were facing is, how do we successfully get our products, from our warehouses into their hands? And I would say from Pickup side, for us, the important part was joining forces with the guys, with the developers who were actually designing the front-end systems at the same time. So for us, we were just kind of more focused on the last mile solution, where a lot of companies weren't too eager to attack that, because it does end up being a bit of a headache. And that's where we specialize in. So yeah.
All right. So Kingsley raised a question, and I just want to follow up on that. And the biggest question is, a small business starts and says, okay, brick and mortar, I cannot afford to rent out a store, but I want to sell on Instagram. Shouldn't that be enough? Shouldn't that cover everything?
From my side, personally, I don't think Instagram is the be all and end all. Look, it's a great channel to have your products. At the end of the day, Kingston, like you said earlier, you want to get your customers where they're at their most comfortable. So if they're, browsing their Instagram in the comfort of their home and they can make their purchases via that, it does. I mean, it obviously does help. But to me personally, it doesn't validate the product completely. Depending on your target market, Instagram is generally based on a bit of a younger population. And do you want to purely focus on that? Does your product purely focus on that kind of market base, or is it willing to reach out to more? So from my side, Instagram is a great solution, but it's part of the bigger solution. It isn't the be all end all. I do think it acts as a tool to assist.
All right. So the question comes back again to the key thing to consider. Now, many of the technology companies in Ghana, in Africa, in Sub-Saharan Africa, are thinking and working hard at breaking, or overcoming payments, solving the payments challenge because of fraud. Kingsley raised it. And so the challenge is that as a merchant, as a business coming into e-commerce, you have inventory management, you have payments, you have fulfillment, you have after-page purchase support. Now, if you were to say, of course, you would say all of them have their relevance, but if you were to say this is the one thing that a business needs to focus on first before thinking about the other thing, what would you say that is? I'll come to Kingsley, and then we'll go to John, and then we'll come to Luca as well on this.
So yeah, thanks, Kingston. So it's interesting you asked that question, and to what Lucas said, I mean, Facebook and Instagram are part of what people now call social commerce, right? And it's got its relevance as and when it's being used. But then to your question again, you know, the truth of the matter is there is not one that you can focus on if you really, really, really want to be serious about your retail business. And I'll tell you why. I personally think that the payment space across Africa is almost saturated. Like, look, like it or not, today, if I'm in Ghana and I want to buy something from Kenya or Nigeria or Ethiopia, there are about 4 apps on my phone that can help me do that transaction today. So in terms of bridging that payment gap, it's being done on various levels. But then if, as a retailer, I choose, okay, the first thing I want to do to go digital or to go e-commerce is get a pay stack solution, I'm solving probably 10% of my entire problem. Because once the person pays me, that is just one part of the entire transaction. Even how I reconcile that transaction into my books, it's a whole big hurdle. How I ensure that the item is delivered, the person has confidence. I don't even know who that customer is. Like having that customer data, it's a whole big problem. My thinking is that if you, as a retailer, if you want to go digital, focus on the retail part of it. Focus on understanding how you take your inventory, your stock, your sales digital. Because trust me, the moment you are able to do that, doing integrations for payment, for delivery is the easiest part of it. Because you don't have to build any of those rails yourself. What you need to actually focus.
Okay, Kingsley, can you hear me? All right, so Kingsley says that we should focus on digitizing inventory. And that is what he believes is key to unlocking or, you know, as a first step into the e-commerce domain. John, do you have an alternate take on that as well? What are your thoughts on this as well? Which of these layers should be the first consideration?
Kingston, thanks. So I actually think so. In Kingsley's submission, he actually made mention of the fact that he doesn't think there's one, but ended up focusing on the inventory and basically being able to have visibility on what customers are ordering and all those stuff. So for me, I think each aspect of the e-commerce value chain has its place. And Kingsley rightly said, for payment, we are basically saturated, and getting a payment provider shouldn't be a problem. So for me, I think it's all about the various components. So it's not just about the inventory, it's about how you are even going to manage customer support, how you are going to fulfill those orders. Because trust me, I mean, if you have everything sorted out and your business is digital and maybe you are not able to fulfill the orders, or maybe a customer wants a particular order and it takes about 2 hours or 3 hours for you to deliver it, I mean, you lose that customer on repeat orders. So I think in going digital or going e-commerce, you need to consider all of those. At least make sure that you deploy a minimum solution that's able to satisfy the customer, or be able to get a customer to enjoy your service, or even if it's a product, enjoy your product. So if it's having a minimum inventory management system, if it's even just a phone call, I mean, I know now people have a lot of ways for digitizing various channels, and the focus has always been on chat. But I mean, for the space that we are in, which is a conversational commerce, I mean, I don't want to limit ourselves to just the chat channels of, let's say, Facebook or Instagram or WhatsApp, but because conversations is not just chat, even though that's what is dominant now, we have voice. So most business or most customers are comfortable placing a call. That's what they know. So how are we able to automate or digitize that channel where even though the orders are coming on voice and be able to go into your system for you to have full visibility and thereby also reducing your operational times and all those stuff. So I think for me, it's about looking at the minimal solution that's able to give value to your customers and not probably cause an irritation. So you look at the channels that you want to enable to order, which software you're going to use to be able to manage your inventory and be able to have visibility on the orders, which delivery partner, if you're going to do fulfillment yourself, which delivery partner you are looking at. I think this all work together to be able to provide the value to the customer. And I want to draw you back to the of e-commerce that you give. So I think in one of the stages, it took about 2 or 3 days to fulfill orders. And it was also then e-commerce, right? Because there was an online solution, someone can go and place an order on a website or whatsoever, and in 2 or 3 days you get your order. But now, where we find ourselves, where customers want things instantly, we can't afford to do that. So, in looking at the what to start first, I think you should look at how to deliver the solution to the consumer. If it requires deploying a minimal version of a delivery system with maybe one motorbike or doing just delivery to a particular location which you know you can be able to fulfill and not extending to kilometers outside of your range, or maybe accepting payment on one channel. So far as that is fine, it's good. So I think for me, it's all about delivering value to the customer. Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to take a last one from Luca, and then we're going to contextualize our conversation, bring it down to West Africa, to the various markets that each of our businesses operate in. And Luca, John says, take the minimal version of each of these. Take inventory, take payments, take fulfillment, take after-purchase support. And I'm asking myself this question: a retail business on minimal budget, how are they able to, have each of these services running? Especially when it comes to logistics, because logistics is pretty hefty, expensive to roll out as a business.
Sorry, Kingston, could you repeat the first part of that question again?
Yes, so John is saying, Kingsley says, let's focus on inventory. Let's make sure that inventory is digitized, is available, is able to, is accessible to the customer. And John says, well, that is not sufficient. Think about a minimal version of inventory, of payments, of fulfillments, and then deploy that lean version and then make it available, or let that sort of guide your thinking as a retail business. And what's your take on that? Because thinking about logistics alone, it's a very expensive, space. Especially for retail businesses to own logistics operation.
So Kingston, I see logistics as almost fulfilling one of those kinds of needs. It's a piece of the puzzle that completes the entire picture, and at the end of the day, like I said earlier, a lot of these companies don't necessarily want to focus on logistics alone. So what they would do, for example, like Pickup, they would involve us in the setup of their product and purely focus on that department alone. So in a sense, departmentalizing logistics as a form of plug-in kind of helps assist with the bigger picture. And also, my opinion is that products and things generally change and shift and improve over time. So to go in with the lean kind of concept, you'll find there'll be improvements as you go. There'll be developments as the product kind of evolves. So what you might start out with might not be necessarily the exact same thing that you have going forward. And that's why it's up to these different, layers, if you will, to work together to try complete the overall picture in one. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Luca. So generally, there are two dynamics that is shaping the way retail business is happening on the continent. COVID and then after, right? COVID we already know about. I just want to go around the table. I just want to assess everybody's own thoughts about COVID. Certain businesses were heavily impacted by COVID. And retail business much so, and so just to give us a bit of highlight around your thoughts on whether COVID is an opportunity we should be taking advantage of, whether it's a business slumber at all, and how businesses can evolve, especially within this period, thinking about the future. Kingsley mentions it. Businesses, physical stores have to shut down. And so what do you do next, right? So I'm going to start off, well, the other way around. Kingsley, if you can hear me, how has COVID been for the brands that you work with? How has it shaped their business, changed them in terms of their operationalization?
Yeah, thanks, Kingston. Sorry, my internet keeps going off. But so I think surprisingly for what we've seen, the recovery rate for most of the ports has been really, really and all that actually caused them to lose money. But they will actually realize is that they're actually growing like 4x, right? We are seeing transactions going over 400% month on month on our platform. You are seeing a lot more of these retailers quickly thinking of how they can adopt. It's a WhatsApp group they have for their customers, whether it's a Excel sheet they're tracking stuff with, they've been very proactive around it. So honestly, I think COVID, although we all wanted to go away because it affects a lot of things, for these businesses, it's sort of helped them propel where they want to go, and they are actually improving their transactions in this period and beyond. And I think that's exciting because that means that once you take any tech product to them, they are willing to listen because now they understand the fact that another COVID might come. And so instead of waiting until that happens, can they now start thinking about how they ensure that when other COVID comes, they are still relevant? So really, from our data, growth has been impressive. The person losing out is me because although they want my software, they don't want to pay for it. And I have to be the nice guy and say, you know what, use it for free for 6 months because I want you to grow. But I also need money. But so far, I think retail has been great. Yeah, improving, and it's very, very, encouraging. Yeah.
So you work with a lot of SMBs. I just want to find out what was the hesitance and what were the drivers to that hesitancy in adopting that technology, especially in light of COVID. What were the barriers that kept them saying, "Oh, I'm not ready to try this. Is this going to work for me?" etc.
So in our situation, so again, let me not put the entire African continent in one basket. I must say that for our solution, since we've been running this business, Nigerians have been very great adopters, not just in usage, but in willingness to pay for the solution. I mean, almost all our revenue is from Nigerian subscribers. But then when you come to my country, Ghana, they are like, oh, you know what? Let me try it for an extended period. You know what? I don't really think I want it. You know what? They have all these excuses, that they give. But then you realize that it's not because they don't want the solution. It's more because already this are scattered. Most businesses today are not tracking what their real bottom line is. All they know is, I bought this thing for 1,000 CDs. I sold it for 1,003. That means I've made money. But in reality, you've actually made a loss. Because going to pick it up, all the sales you did, that $50 Facebook ad you had to run to sell that 1,000 CDs thing, all that feeds into your OpEx. So at the end of the day, them adding more to their OpEx of software is where the problem is. So what we've seen is, but then once they get into the space, and with COVID and all that, most of them are now having to work from home, and warehouses are mostly closed, very skeletal stuff. So now they are having to think, okay, how can I really manage this if I'm not physically there? Because that's the value of this trade. So really, it's not been about the product. It's more been about their own personal, sort of ability to pay, and having the sort of the margins that will help them add software as part of their OpEx. Because now it's not there, because they don't really know whether they are making a loss or making a gain. So that is how we've seen it over time here in Ghana, Nigeria. Yeah.
Okay, John, what about your side as well? You work in the conversational commerce domain. You work with a lot of retail businesses as well. How has it been, COVID? I mean, pre-COVID and then COVID.
So I think pre-COVID, I mean, it's quite evident, right? Most of the brands or target market, the means of which they accept orders or requests from customers is probably you walk into the shop, or you place a call to their numbers. And the thing is, most of these brands did not also believe in delivery. They thought maybe delivery was a luxury. I mean, they pride themselves in actually getting people to come to their shop or their physical location to be able to transact or place orders. But then COVID hits. Then you realize actually you need to still run your business. So how then do you do that? I mean, do you invest in building an app or if you don't have a website, building a website all over again. I mean, so you compare that to comparing, and yes, if you build an app, build a website, you need to spend dollars to be able to market it or promote it for people to install or even hit it. So then the proposal of actually digitizing or automating their social channels became relevant, where they enable their customers to be able to transact with them on their either with their WhatsApp number, on their Instagram, on their Facebook, and in situations where they are not even online, they can do that via USSD and SMS and the like. So I think it's been quite. COVID has helped us reduce the obstacle or the barrier to market, where brands are now understanding and realizing that, okay, even without COVID, there's opportunity for growth, because I mean, I have presence on these channels and I'm enabling my customers transact with me. So I think it's been quite good.
Luca, you mentioned that South Africa is going through lockdown as well. So I mean, how is that operationally affecting Pickup as well as a tech company? Is it in the positive? Is it in the negative? Has it not moved at all? What are the metrics telling you?
So look, personally, I believe COVID sped up the industry up to almost 5 years as to where it was actually planning on going. And for us being in the delivery game, to be honest with you, COVID has actually really increased our overall volume. In a sense where Pickup was fortunate enough in South Africa to be labeled a specific type of business that was still allowed to run and operate during all of this. So certain aspects like pharmaceutical deliveries, food deliveries to people's specific homes, that's really picked up, but specifically in South Africa, which has allowed our driver fleet to increase drastically over quite a short period of time. And I mean, from this growth that we felt in South Africa, we were this is when we decided actually to go over to Ghana last year. So for us, there's been big growth and quite a drastic shift from where we were before all of this as to where we are now. Understandably so.
All right, thank you. So the last bit, and then of course we'll be wrapping up our conversation, is on After, right? So After is creating this single retail or business domain without boundaries. So businesses in South Africa can take advantage of opportunities in Liberia, in Uganda, and there isn't really any kind of economic barrier, if I can put it that way, within this space. Now, the question, because lots of you have spoken so nicely about your solutions, what you do, how easy it is, inventory management, conversational commerce, logistics. The question really is, what are the operational layers to consider if a merchant or a retail business today operating in Ghana, West Africa, is thinking about breaking that barrier, taking advantage of After, and then moving to a different economic boundary, if I can put it that way, economic layer within the continent? What are the various operational layers to consider for a shopping retailer, for example, to think about in taking advantage of After? I'll start off with John, and then I'll go to Kingsley, and I'll come back to Luca on this.
I think what is obvious is the fact that you need to do your market research, because the market, even though we are trying to put everything together, there are certain nuances specific to certain markets. So as a retailer, you need to be quite strategic to be sure that for whatever product that you are selling or services, for where you want to expand to, it's needed. And also, the expansion is easier with e-commerce, or being able to transact online, where you can work through partners and not physically present to be able to expand your business to other countries. So if I say partners, so in the e-commerce, I have identified about, from inventory management to fulfillment to ordering channels and the like, and payments and the like. So being able to be sure that for these various verticals in the e-commerce space, you have your platform or whatever e-commerce solution that you're providing, it's able to deliver the value by considering all these channels. So aside making sure that you have done research, I think you also need to be sure that you have the right partners that's going to help you scale and advance. partners. And one interesting thing though is the fact that actually for what we are working on, I think for pickup, maybe they would need to get some internal or some riders local to the country or the region that you want to expand. But I'm guessing that for Kingsley and for Rankad, it's basically a software as a service. So once you have a payment partner, you have a delivery partner, the solutions can easily work. So for a retailer, I think one thing you need to also consider is which platform or which service can easily help you scale that fast to other regions as compared to where you find yourself.
Okay, John, thank you. So Kingsley, back to you on this. Is Commerce Tech ready to break that boundary between countries? I mean, look at the cost to deploy, look at the cost to operationalize, the timelines involved, etc. And then the question we're asking ourselves is it worth it? Is this something that a business should proactively be thinking about, going to other geographies and serving those markets?
So thanks, Kingston. So I think, again, for the MSME sector of the whole value chain, I think what I would say will be the most big advantage they will get is if the FMCGs and the key distributors who are already in various countries take this up as their primary focus to introduce whatever solutions they can into these retail sectors. And I'll give you a typical example. So we work with a company called Premium Textiles. So they run GTP, Woodane, Blisco in Ghana and across West Africa. Now, if you know about textile prints in Africa, every African has a textile print. Like it's something we pride at. Like I'm wearing one today, But then you realize that there are lots of physical retail outlets, and these are really traditional retail businesses. So what they did was that they, instead of trying to get each of these retailers to launch their own data commerce or launch their own inventory or do all that, they tap into the existing manual sort of operations flow they had with them and put a digital solution on top of it. So now every inventory moving to these retailers is already digitized. And these retailers just have a simple device installed to be able to do sales. And once we're able to achieve that, they turn all this inventory now into online, what they call buygtp.com. Now, when you do that, what you've now done is not only are you ensuring that when somebody in South Africa goes on your online store as in GTP to buy, they are buying from a single merchant in Makola. So instantly, you've created that framework for that retailer in Makola to benefit from any policy, be it AFTA or any other, to be able to sell globally. So for us, really, I think that approach is critical. Most of these people don't have the know-how to be able to do these things. But if the big guys up there, Unilever, Nestle, all those big guys who are in these countries, bring that layer to them and fix it what they have now, then there's nothing that's stopping them. I mean, the sky will be the limit for them moving on.
Right. So Kingsley says that big commerce should focus on systems that can enable their operational outlets to scale across boundaries, basically. And then back to you, Luca. The last mile here is always with delivery, and for me that is one of the things that have not really seen smoothly as far as cross-boundary or going across various countries as far as that goes. How should, or what are the considerations for a business that wants to operate between geographies, especially with regards to logistics and delivery? What are the key considerations here?
So, as I mentioned, Kingston, recently South Africa or Pickup was operating purely within South Africa, and then we decided to enter a new market in Ghana, and where we found one of the biggest headaches or hurdles to overcome were more in the operational sense. The environment in South Africa is quite different to Ghana in a sense where Pickup onboards various, third-party providers. So whether it be owner drivers, whether it be couriers, and the environment in South Africa, like I said, operates a certain way. And one of the biggest headaches we found was actually applying the same onboarding process in Ghana. And we felt that we kind of had to change our whole onboarding process, in order to offer our solution. And in that sense, it all comes down to, from our sense, just service providers. Form strong enough relationships with the guys so that you are able to communicate what you need, what you want, and if they can see eye to eye and assist you in your mission, then there's very little that can go wrong. But it's the groundwork that counts for us. Getting there, being there, feeling how the environment operates, and making it happen.
All right. So yeah, thanks, guys. So Lucas says, I mean, you should think about relationships that enable you to scale your delivery between geographies, which is really important. And so we are wrapping up. We're out of time. I'm just going to go around the table, and then I'm level what exactly your business is doing to, should I say, shape, change, revolutionize the way we do e-commerce in sub-Saharan Africa, and what that could mean. I mean, what the potential is in the next 3 years, in the next 5 years. So I'm going to start off with John, then I'm going to go to Kingsley, and I'm going to end with Luca on this.
Okay, thank you, Kingston. So basically, I mean, Rankad, as you rightly stated, I mean, it's an AI company currently focused on conversational commerce. Brands do need conversational commerce, but they are yet to appreciate the kind of problem it will solve for them. So let me give a typical scenario. When I set up, or I decided to come up with my business, I think that the first thing I'll probably do is to probably create a social channel from Facebook to Instagram and the rest. Aside that, I'll spend a lot of money to be able to promote my products there. So why don't I give my customers the means to be able to also purchase the products from these channels? And I think recently Twitter also launched their shop, even though it's not conversational, but they launched a shop, and they understand where the consumers or where the users are. Because I mean, a customer experiencing a bad service will go to these channels to vent. So give them an avenue to actually vent and be heard. So what we are focused on is being able to help brands to automate their digital channels. And see, it goes from pre-sale to the actual sale to post-sales. By pre-sales, basically, before even a customer makes their mind to be able to purchase a product, there are certain questions that they want to ask. They want to convince themselves, okay, either you do delivery to do fulfillment to this particular place, the price of the product and all those stuff. And I mean, you can't do that if you have one or just two people managing your social channels. So that's where Rankad come in, where we automate these channels to make it easier for your customers to be able to find the information they are looking for, to be able to place the order and get it fulfilled. And if there are any issues, they're able to come back to the channel and engage with you. So for now, I think our main focus has to do with the chat or text channels. In the future, I think the chat is not the only means of conversation. The next means of conversation is voice. So being able to also do that via voice, and I think that will really be a game changer because currently that's what customers know, basically calling like a line and number. And they are certain for some of the brands that we currently have on board. There are certain times where they are overwhelmed with calls, right? Because customers only know that channel. So when their calls are not getting picked up because somebody else is on the line or it's busy or something like that, those are sales that they are losing. So how do we help them automate those channels so that it makes it easier for them to accumulate all those sales as well? So I think for us, I mean, the future is bright. I mean, we are persistent in being able to help businesses connect with the brands, the channels where they find themselves. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yep, Kingsley.
Okay, thanks, Kingston. So here at Kudigo, we offer digital commerce solutions for every part of the consumer retail value chain. So from your usual mom and pop stores, your spazers, your kiosks, all the way up to the FMCGs, our focus really is to ensure that last mile retail is digitized one way or the other. And by so doing, creates value across the entire value chain for every that be payment service provided, be in conversational commerce companies like Rankad. We see ourselves as a platform enabler. So we never try to do everything. We integrate with payment processes, with conversational commerce processes to ensure that the entire value chain is catered for. So today we offer a storefront solution an e-commerce solution, and we also offer a distribution solution, all fully connected with every other payment gateway. So we are happy to engage with anyone on this call, looking to partnerships, and work with anyone who is interested in working with us. Thanks.
All right. Now if you can mute, please.
Because I'm not wearing my.
All right. Thank you. So Luca, over to you.
Sorry,
I'm not wearing
the
uniform.
connection was quite terrible when you initially asking the question. Do you mind just repeating that briefly, and I'll respond?
Yes. So basically, what I'm saying is that to talk a bit about what Pickup is doing and the problems that you're solving, and of course, how it's going to shape the face of e-commerce in Sub-Saharan Africa in the next couple of years. Yes.
Okay, cool. So Pickup is we designed a digital platform with the aims of kind of reducing human intervention. You know, we work closely with integrating with websites, with mobile applications, and our whole approach is that in order to scale, you know, for businesses to truly scale, if you're dealing with anything around 1,000 orders per day, to have a manual involvement is just somewhat ridiculous. So for us, we aim to integrate with businesses and provide them an environment or platform that if ever they do decide to, I don't know, scale or volumes really do increase, we can provide a digital solution purely on the delivery aspect. You know, and gone are the days of sending a box on a bike or in a truck and crossing your fingers. You know, for us, we want evidence of where the guys are going. You know, digital signatures. You know, as we discussed earlier. You know, I think it all needs to lean into the digital scope. And for us going forward, you know, the future looks bright. You know, we in South Africa alone, we're providing jobs for thousands of drivers who initially wouldn't have had work during these times because they are deemed an essential service. So for us, you know, as online presences increase and as people want to go more digital, we're very happy to assist them in their last mile solutions. So yeah, exciting times.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. I mean, we're out of time. It's 5 o'clock already. I was expecting a couple of questions, but yeah, time caught up with us. So, I mean, guys, I really appreciate you taking time to join me in this conversation. Kingsley from Kudigo, as I said earlier, I mean, Kudigo is really...
Kingston.
Yes.
I think we can take about 10 minutes of call.
Okay.
I mean, questions.
Is it okay with you, Kingsley and Luca?
Yeah, of course.
Your question?
Go ahead. What you
All
got?
right. Sure. Any questions from our audience, please drop them in the chat. I'll read them quickly, and then we will we'll continue. Now, the question to you, Luca, is cost of acquiring a logistics service such as Pickup. What are the costs involved for retail businesses?
Okay, so we offer various packages depending on your volume. So if you're a small scale business, anything between 0 to 100 deliveries, we have a specific package that assists with that. And we have packages ranging all the way up to, let's say, between 15 and 20,000 orders per month. So pretty much we very flexible in our pricing structure. I like dealing it more on a personal level. So I come in and we have a discussion on what your business requirements are, and between your business and Pickup, we can find a solution that works best for you. So, yeah.
All right, thank you. So also same question to you, Kingsley. And on top of that, what kind of businesses does Kudigo support? What layers of businesses? Is it only for SMBs in fashion and textile? Is it only what exactly are the layers that you support presently? Kingsley, can you hear me?
The answer is anyone doing buy. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
So I was saying that anyone doing buying and selling can use our storefront solution. So irrespective of what industry you are in, whether you're a restaurant, whether you sell building materials, whether you sell consumer retail, our storefront solution can work for you. And it's actually designed for your business. So there's a free forever version which I don't recommend you get because I don't make any money. But then you can also get the premium version as well, which gives you so many features that you can use. But really, it's quite simple and quite easy to use. And you're able to connect with accounting integrations, payment integration, logistics integrations, anything that will make your business grow. That is what we exist to do.
All right, thank you. Now, John, your question is a little bit different. You mentioned AI, you mentioned conversational engagements, very, very tech heavy, tech dense. What is the, should I say, the complexity? How much complexity does a merchant need to know about technology to adopt your solutions? It looks like there are too many tech layers involved in there.
So actually, to what the merchant just needs to give us their product catalog, and that's all. All the other heavy lifting is done by our technology. But I mean, I think it's good to be able to understand where the industry is also heading towards, especially when we talk about quick commerce and conversational commerce, which seems to be the future of e-commerce. I mean, there will come a time where to be able to achieve, I think it's already happening, where to be able to achieve the quick commerce, brands will start using drones for fulfillment, because I mean, currently in terms of using riders and stuff, there could be some hurdles. And also there will be a time where brands should be able to even anticipate the need of their customers with the help of IoT and machine learning, even before they run out or they have need of the product. And I think one of the other product that we didn't mention here is what we call Rendezvous. So basically that's also basically to help. We understand that people understand they trust their friends, or they believe in trust. So one of our products, Rendezvous, basically help fulfills that, where you're able to give you recommendations based on your social network. So I think the future of e-commerce is being able to first deliver quickly. Secondly, being able to anticipate the need of your customers and be there to be able to fulfill them. So, I mean, the buzzwords are just for the technology aspect, but for the brands, all we need is just their product catalog, and the automation just takes hold. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, John. So, I mean, you guys have been so generous with the time. I have to bring the curtain down here. But I mean, the point is that this conversation doesn't really end. Think about it. Retail e-commerce is going to go to $6.5 trillion in the next 3 years. Each of these brands I'm speaking with, Rankad, I'm speaking with Kudugu, I'm speaking with Pickup, they are changing the face of e-commerce in Africa. And so I'm very excited to have these guys join this conversation. I'm sure as we go along, we would have more time to speak to specific issues. And so guys, thanks a lot for making time for this conversation. I mean, one of the key takeaways for me is, if you're thinking about an e-commerce solution, if you're thinking about deploying e-commerce mix in your business, or scaling it up, some of the key considerations are the various tech layers in there. What are the digital channels you want to engage your customers on? How you're going to basically digitize that inventory and then move it across geographies, and then how you're going to fulfill. These are really critical. And of course, speaking with these guys, it's clear that it's not an expensive, so actually technology to deploy or tech solution to make available to your audience. So yes, guys, thank you very much for making time for this conversation. Luca, thank you so much. Kingsley, thank you as well. And John, yep, hope to engage you guys on the next side of things. Yeah, audience, thank you so much for making time to join us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you too.
Have a good one.
Thanks, Kingston. Thanks for the time.
Have a good one too. Bye.
Cheers, bye.
Kudugu.